And tonight's special guest is Nick from Cose2Cose. Nick, hello. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm good.
Good.
I have my Oreos here.
I was thinking about getting some Oreos for the show and just randomly open them up during the show. But, you know, I have to keep my mouth clear so I can actually do the show.
Beard.
Yeah. Be all over my beard and everything.
Get cracked out by the end of the show. You'd be like,
I gotta get some more Oreos, man. Gotta get some more Oreos.
the self-limit's still open. Let's go.
I have a quick question here. For the name for the show, the Cose2Cose, why didn't you just name the show Bible Answers? I mean, for the channel. I mean, because that's what you're known. You guys are known for, is the Bible Answers, which is awesomely funny. If you guys out there have not checked out Bible Answers out on YouTube, there, you guys are missing out on some great laughs and some good information. But where did you guys come up with the name Cose2Cose?
Well, the name comes before YouTube, and I was messing around with some editing equipment and just wanted to put a label on a quick movie that me and my cousin Jesse had made, and we always called each other Cosin from Balky from Perfect Strangers, if you know what that is.
I know Perfect Strangers. I'm dating myself here a little bit, but I know Perfect Strangers, yes.
Yeah, I know most people don't have a clue what I'm talking about. You know, we'd always be like, hey, Cosin. And so I just, since we did videos together, I just put Cose2Cose. And then I only started YouTube just to put the first episode of Bible Answers up, which at the time was not considered an episode. It was just a standalone video. It was just another one of our small projects that we slapped together. And somebody kept suggesting, put it on MySpace, put it on YouTube, put it on YouTube. I'm like, fine. You know, I didn't really know much about YouTube when we first did that. And in fact, the first thing I heard about YouTube was some dude was telling me that you could see 14-year-old girls dancing in their panties, so I avoided it for a while.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would probably have avoided that at that point, too, if I had heard that. But I have another quick question. Were you ever religious? And if you were, how did you come to your non-belief?
I grew up in a Christian household. I mean, it wasn't like crack the whip type. But we went to church here and there. But I grew up genuinely believing in it. I remember having these records of Bible stories, and you know, it was like a guy and his puppet, and they would, you know, they'd be like, "It's story time, yay!" and tell these fucking Bible stories, and then. Anyway, I grew up believing that, and when I was a teenager, I still believed in it. I looked into it, wanted to know more about it because I realized all I knew was the Bible stories, like the stories that kids get told. And I think around when I was 19, it was what really pulled me away from it was the story of Noah's Ark, was kind of the starting snowball.
It's usually a good place for anybody that wants to come out of religion. Just look into the Noah story. And if you can see the flaws in that, you're gonna start going, what else is wrong with this goddamn book?
And I even told myself, I was like, okay, well, I believe in this. I believe Jesus died for my sins and all this, but I'm just going to go ahead and think that these outlandish stories are just lore that they told people back then, you know, just stories. And it just kind of occurred to me a little while later that, well, if I'm willing to pass these off as obviously not real, then what makes any of it real? And then it was just kind of kept going from there.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to, you know, once you start reading it, you start figuring that these stories are not anything of reality, then you go, well, the rest of must be crap too.
And I still didn't know much about the Bible, but by the time I came across all the crazy shit that's in there, like, you know, kill your kid because he did this, or kill a gay person, or you know, women have to marry their rapists. By the time I came across that crap, I was already an atheist. I just thought it was gold.
Yeah.
When I struck that, like, oh my God.
Yeah, the marry your rapist thing. I mean, why more women aren't atheists after they read that? Say, you have to marry your rapist? Fuck that. I'm not getting part of this shit. Fuck that noise, you know, but.
Right.
But anyway, my next question is, what videos out there inspire you? Or is there any video out there on YouTube or channel that you've seen out there besides, you know, Packard Pokes At that that really inspires you?
To do what we do now? I think, well, nothing inspired Bible Answers because that was before I even, heard of YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I heard of it. But for like our drinking show, our video podcast type show,
Mm-hmm.
I think Paul Torval's News Undies kind of inspired that. Although they're extremely different shows,
Mm-hmm.
Just the fact that he does something he really likes week after week, I wanted to do that. I was like, man, I don't want to keep doing scripted stuff. Like, I want to just be able to point a camera at me and just say and do what we want. And
Yeah, that's what we do here on the show.
yeah, and Jesse just pointed out in the chat room that non-stamp collector rocks, and he does.
Oh yeah, I like non-stamp collector. Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't. There was no inspiration for like the other stuff.
Okay. Another quick question here is: how do you go about producing your videos, and how do you edit the videotape? Do you put it all into a computer? Do you record directly to a computer, or do you just do it onto a VHS or a video recorder of some sort, and then throw it in the computer?
Well, we've gone through several different formats. Right now, it's on an HD camera, and it records directly to an SD card.
Mm.
And then I just it's like a 32 gigabyte SD card, so it's pretty good for, we wouldn't film more than 32 gigabytes in a day. So then I just transfer that to the computer.
Mm.
I do all the editing myself at home on my computer. I use Avid Studio,
Mm-hmm.
and that works pretty well.
Okay.
But for the first season of Bible Answers, we actually used a real VHS camcorder from the 80s
Oh,
with a VHS tape, and then
I used to have one of those.
yeah, just to give it that real shitty public access look, and then used a VCR and a little piece of hardware to transfer that to the hard drive,
Mm.
and then went from there. And that actually took up more memory than
Really?
than using stuff that records directly to hard drive. I don't know why. It took up a shitload of memory.
Well, analog. When analog captures, it captures everything. It's not filtering out everything, so that could be a reason why. Because when you're going to digital, it filters out a lot of that extra stuff, and it's compressing it as it's recording. So that could be a reason why.
Yeah, and I still have. Well, I've got some external hard drives. I still have all the footage from the first season. Well, from all the seasons, but I don't have the VHS tapes anymore. We finally just destroyed those.
Oh,
I don't
to get
even
rid of
have a way
you.
watching those.
yeah. It would have been fun to see the outtakes on stuff like that.
Yeah, I do have all that. It's
Oh,
all
that's good.
saved. It's all saved on a hard drive. It's just the physical VHS copies are gone.
Mm. Yeah. One thing with hard drives, they don't last forever. So I hope you have multiple copies. Somewhere.
I do. I keep backing up.
Okay, that's always good. What is one of the best videos you've seen on another channel on YouTube? Do you watch other channels on YouTube at all? I mean, besides Paul Torville and Packard Pokes At.
I do. I mean, I don't watch like a whole lot. I think Jesse kind of hit it when he said non-stamp collector. As far as related to what we do, and being like an entertainment style show, probably him. I mean, some of as far as like production value near ours. Now, I mean, the Mortal Kombat legacy is pretty cool, but they look like they've got a lot of money. So,
Okay. What do you do outside in the real world, away from your YouTube persona? You don't have to give the name of the company or anything like that. Just
I play Grand Theft Auto 5.
That's my job.
no.
Play Grand Theft Auto 5, kill people and run them down.
Oh, it's wonderful.
My crew's been robbing a lot of banks. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's been going straight into my bank account. It's in the game. I quit my job like weeks ago. No, I work at an electronics factory. We make transformers and just little all kinds of different anything that has to do with wire and electronics.
Those kind of trends. I thought you were like robots and just never mind. You're talking about those kind of.
It's called Skynet. You may have heard of it.
I've heard of Skynet. Yes.
Yeah, we're planning something
Foxconn
big.
America, right?
It's gonna be the next big thing.
I certainly hope so. But I'm going to turn the questions over to our peanut gallery here, also known as our co-host. Joe, do you have any questions for Nick?
Yeah, Nick, I'm a huge fan of Bible Answers. I love that show. You guys are awesome. I also love the Muppets. Tell me about your puppet that you introduced in season 3 for the Touching Children segment.
Oh, that's a good
Did
question.
you make it? Did you buy it? How did you come up with that whole segment?
Well, the puppet was actually made by Jesse. He made
nice.
the puppet. The segment itself was supposed to be just a way to have Pastor Green back on the show, and it was originally just going to be like a 2-3 time thing.
Mm-hmm.
But once I saw that first episode, I was like, "Oh hell no! This has got to be like a regular part of the show." And and plus, it's a great way to, because there's some topics in the Bible that just I could not really figure out a great way to make a call.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people tell me all the time, like, "Oh, you should talk about this in the Bible." I'm like, "There's no feasible way that I could make that into a call." But you know, when you have like the setting in the Touching Children show, it all of a sudden, you know, anything goes. It no longer has to be a realistic conversation between people. It can just be some bullshit that was written by obviously Christian producers. You know, they're like, "Oh, I sure wish I could go for a Bible story." You know, like, who the fuck says that? And then, "Oh, I got a Bible story for you." And just goes right into it.
Joe, before you get your next question, I have another quick question. Whatever happened to the guy with the little short guy, the blonde hair and the glasses, and he was going to come in and he was going to kick Jesse out. Well, not Jesse, but you know, he was going to kick John out from the church there. And he,
well, you'd be talking about Adam.
Adam, that's
Adam
right, Adam,
was the character in season 2.
Yeah.
Just a little backlash on Adam. Adam was something that we had thought of. Well, we didn't know the name. We wanted a second Christian. And we thought of this even in season 1, but I was like, I don't really know how to do this. It went through several incarnations. It was going to maybe be John's twin brother, and Jesse was going to play 2 people at once.
Oh, that would have been funny.
and then it you know, the whole idea was that you only have one main Christian on the show, but but the Bible can go several different ways, depending on what passage you're talking about, or even a specific passage can go several different ways. So it's funny to have 2 Christians on bickering back and forth. They're both telling basically the truth. Like, oh, here it says God lies. Well, here it says God doesn't lie.
Right.
But the guy who played him, and this wasn't why we ended him in season 2. He was always supposed to end in season 2. It was always supposed to go that way, but he's not in season 3 because the actor became a Christian after doing the show. Not directly after, but after he had done the show, he started showing up and wearing a cross necklace and shit. We're like, what the hell is up with this? And he just he told us he became a Christian and that he didn't have any beef with us or anything, but he said that we had a misunderstanding of the Bible.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
I love that argument. It's like, you just don't understand the Bible. I mean, wow. Even the stuff that after you showed him and say, hey, you know, here's the problems with it. He's like, oh, you just don't understand it. What?
And I've got footage, you know, behind the scenes stuff where he's openly, you know, bashing it himself. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. He must have been very impressionable, or maybe had something to do with a girl.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
That happens sometimes.
I was shocked. I thought it was, you know, it's funny. It's kind of crazy, you know, that would happen. So I'm just hoping it doesn't happen to me.
Yeah. Joe, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You had some other questions there?
You were talking a little bit about the writing process. I want to know what the writing process is like for you. Do you spend much time looking up Bible nonsense, and what inspires the types of callers that you come up with?
Well, the biggest deal breaker on whether or not we can continue to do episodes is call topics, and because obviously I'm going to run out of shit eventually. Mm-hmm. That's in the passages anyway. Right. So for the longest time after season 2, you know, season 3 was just a joke, like we weren't going to do it, and I started working at this factory, which is boring, and had a lot of time to think, and I started to think a lot and realize, oh my God, you know, I've got enough shit to to do it. So the writing process is I come across stuff. I don't actively look up things, but I can't help but come across crazy things in the Bible, especially just checking out other videos or sometimes, looking at the Skeptic's Annotated Bible online. Mm-hmm. And when I come across something crazy, I immediately think of how can this be put into a call? How would John react to this? and just kind of go from there. Once I have a big enough list of call topics, I start sorting them out. And sometimes I don't know. I just know the call topic. Mm-hmm. Like, what was one that's already been covered? Like the gay bar or the homos attacking packs, which
yeah, homosexuals attacking packs.
I came across I always knew about the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, but I came across the other story and I was like, wait, is this Sodom and Gomorrah? No, it's not. It was another story in the Bible where a group of men who wanted to have sex with men were beating down a door. And I'm like, is this really how they think homosexuals act? And I just, from there, I'm like, how can I put this into something? And I just thought about how, well, God, they think they attack in packs. That'd be hilarious if that's how John puts it. It's more funny if that's exactly how he wants, he doesn't disagree with that absurdity.
Yeah, that's what I like about John. He's like, it doesn't matter how absurd it is. Yes, we know it's absurd, but hey, it's the Bible,
Yeah.
But that's the great thing about the John Matthews character is it does, like he's just like, well, it's in the Bible.
Right. And yeah, the whole idea of the show is, how funny would it be if somebody or people actually followed those rules now in today's society? Mm-hmm. And it's just to shine a light on how ridiculous those situations would be, if somebody actually followed that.
There was actually, this was last year, some woman she tried to follow all the rules of the Bible for about a year. And she would separate herself when she had her monthly. They had a tent pitched in the backyard, and it was that time of month. She would separate herself from the family, and she'd stay in the tent for the whole time until she was clean again, as it were.
Isn't there like 230 rules, like specific behavioral rules in the Bible? Like, how could you possibly do that?
I know it's weird, but she tried to follow all of them. Like, apparently,
wow. So like, were her clothes not stitch of?
Yeah, she had to stitch up her own. Yeah, she had to make up she made up her own clothing, the whole 9 yards. It was really bizarre.
She made sure not to carry two different weighted rocks in her purse or whatever.
I hope she wrote a book about that experience.
It was on the news, so they covered it on the news. So it's just bizarre. I mean, why would anybody
shut her mouth in church?
I would imagine so. She followed that 1 Timothy rule, But anyway, Joe,
Timothy 2:12.
Yeah, 2:12. Yeah, 1 Timothy 2:12. Joe, did you have any other quick questions?
Oh man, you're giving me a third question.
I'm giving you a third question.
I actually had one before, but I don't remember right at the second.
All right, I'll tell you what. While you're thinking about it, we'll give Connie a chance to ask her questions. Connie, go ahead. What are your questions for Nick?
Where do you think you see your show in another year? Are you going to be spending next year over doing Bible Answers, and what other projects do you have?
Well, we do have a completely different show that's already scripted out and lined up, and I'm not going to give any information on it, but I mean it's right up the humor alley of Bible Answers. It's not religious based. As far as Bible Answers goes, well, of course we got the second half of season 3 coming that we're working on right now, and every time we finish the season with Bible Answers, we're like, all right, we're done. And
people go like, more. We want more.
I know, and I love doing it. I love I love the show. The main reason why season 3 exists is because I wanted to see it. Mm-hmm. I'm a fan myself. I really enjoy the show, and but I think I was talking to Jesse about this. I was like, well, instead of flat out saying there will never be a season 4, why not just kind of switch gears? And every time I've got a decent amount of material that could be calls, maybe just put out episodes here and there when I can, instead of doing that whole promising them every Sunday thing, because that's actually really, really taxing to do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, tell me about it. I do this show every week.
Yeah, well, and you're
that's
you're
because you're
crazy
psychotic.
But this
He
is a
found my
great
he
show.
found my kryptonite.
I think writing. I hate writing. Out of all the processes, I still laugh when I'm writing, and I'm really making some gold. But I hate writing. It's like a love-hate thing. And,
we understand that.
I think after this season's done, and if it's been a while down the road, and I've got enough for 3 more episodes, why not just make them? And not necessarily saying that they're going to keep coming out every Sunday, but they'll just maybe just come out when they come out.
Oh, sure.
That's awesome. That takes the pressure off it, the creative pressure.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's still. I mean, the funny thing is there's still so many people that haven't discovered the show at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll still the 40. Well, there's 33 episodes on now, but the 40 that we have, that are going to be, that's a lot. That's a lot of hours.
Oh,
there's
yeah.
more hours in the first half of season 3 than I think it matches like season 1. Just the first half of season 3, and season 2 is like 2 hours long.
I've gone through these shows several times, just sitting there going, I got to rewatch these over and over again. Joe said in the chat room that we've quoted you guys on the show many times here on the show.
And we get together on Wednesdays and talk about the podcast, and we'll quote it to each other.
That's great. Next caller.
Like Packard, what about contradictions in the Bible? He'll be like, caller, there are no contradictions in the Bible.
I think also maybe in future episodes after season 3, I've always wanted to look back at season 1 now that I've gotten a lot better, a lot funnier at making them, maybe going back, not redoing season 1, but recovering some topics that could be covered even funnier.
Mm-hmm.
There you go, yeah.
That's another idea. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Good idea.
Definitely. Joe, do you have any other questions, or did you want to turn the floor over to Connie?
Hang on, I got to answer a question.
I'm laughing.
here.
Jesse in the chat room.
Oh,
He just said, would you rather make out with John Matthews, Darren, or Pastor Green? And because it's Jesse asking, I'm going to have to say John Matthews. Because I like his sweater vest. It's so hot.
There was a question up there by Kill Bees says, where did Terry come from? Do you want me to answer that?
sure. Go ahead. You can ask that one.
Yeah, Terry Buckheimer. He originally just started out as a guy for the Lot's Daughters call.
Oh, I remember that one.
Oh, yeah.
And that was his first call, and I just was like, "This guy, I want, how
How
can
can
I
I fuck
cover?
my daughters? And like, what?
How can I
What?
cover this? And I'm like,
taking them camping.
What if a guy wants that to happen to him? So he's calling for advice on how to get this to happen, and I'm like, he's just got to sound, and I just kind of came out with the voice like, hey there, John, it's Terry Buckheimer again, and then I just was like, Terry, I don't know, I just said Terry, and then I was like, I wanted to sound something hillbilly-ish, and I put Buck in there for like deer, Buck. I just said Buckheimer, and
There you go.
I didn't realize that there was a director named Jerry Bruckheimer.
Oh my!
I did not realize that. But I already had my heart set on Terry, and then I came up with a couple other calls in season 2 that were perverted, and
He is a
I was
pervert.
I was like, what if? And originally it wasn't Terry, it was just that one call, and I was like, oh, this guy's got to be a repeat caller who every time he calls it's something pervy. And then once I established that, I came up with Terry's Armor of God, and I think I learned about the Armor of God at that point, and with Terry in my mind, I was like, he's going to change that to the strap on of truth, the zipper mask of salvation, the fake titties of righteousness, and the high heels of peace.
You were calling out earlier in the season for people to draw pictures of Terry Buckheimer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I haven't got a single damn one.
Really? Oh,
What's up, people?
I don't draw. I mean,
Well, I want they can look bad. You remember the Jesus Picture Contest in season 1?
oh yeah.
It was just a crayon drawing. So.
So that's still open? I could, because I actually wanted to do that. Packard suggested it to me. He's like, they're doing a drawing contest. I was like, oh, cool, I could do that. And I
did.
emailed you, and then I forgot about it.
Nice. Hey, did you get the script I sent you?
I was just checking my phone, and yes, I did.
Okay,
Awesome.
great. All right, I'll tell you what. Let's give Connie some time here. Connie, what are your questions for Nick?
Well, he already answered one of my questions, sort of. He said that you and Jesse are cousins. I was curious, how did you meet Ben? Is he a high school, college friend, or work friend, or?
He's Jesse's ex-lover. No, they're current.
You can tell.
That
I worked
explains
with
the
them.
hostility.
Yeah, I worked with him at a different factory, and just I could tell that it was a welding factory, and I could tell that we didn't fit the persona of most welders.
Mm-hmm.
You know, really, we had personalities and could laugh.
Oh,
So we hung out with each other a lot and just started talking. And he liked to do videos, and so he just kind of got on board. And everybody at the factory thought we were gay. So these are like F-150 driving, tobacco
Yes. No,
welders.
I'm familiar with that persona, yes.
So I liked that they thought we were gay.
Well, nothing can freak a really truly redneck macho man out than thinking that somebody within their vicinity is gay and might want to proposition them. I don't know why they would think that, but they do.
yeah.
Oh, I love it when they're
Dawkins'
just
dog had a
nasty
question
looking.
too.
Okay,
by
well,
the
we'll
way.
get to the chat room in just a minute.
Oh, okay. I'm
But-
sorry.
No, go ahead. Just finish. Go ahead with your
Sure.
questions first.
Yeah, I think that was all I had because, like I said,
Oh,
and I was going to ask you too, and then you already said, yeah, you actually used VHS on those earlier, the first season, because I'm like, did they use VHS on this?
That's pretty amazing.
It was
actually.
awesome. I love the graininess of your video, and especially in the beginning when you have that little voiceover and it sounds all crackly, and it reminds me of, all the crummy old radio shows that I used to listen to when I was a believer, on the Baptist radio or whatever.
And I did that. We've sometimes asked in the Bible Answers world, like, who is that voice? That's not Pastor Green or anything. But I mean, it was me, and of course, we didn't have any other character in mind when I first did it. But I actually did that with something that you should never do. I plugged a set of headphones into the microphone jack and just pressed my mouth up against the right ear and just went, and now for Bible Answers, and it just sounded like shit. And then
It does.
that was recorded.
Spot on. It's
And these are
hilarious.
tricks that
I'm loving
kids
it.
do.
I've been actually playing catch up. I finally found your first season because it wasn't. I don't know why it didn't pop up on the YouTube channel at
YouTube
first,
has made some weird ass changes recently, and it's hard to find
Yeah.
any content in
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah, there is a playlist on there for it.
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I found it, but
So eventually I did.
yeah. Oh, okay.
So.
Did you have any other questions there, Connie?
I wish I had more. I love that you guys love Mel Brooks. It's more like comments than questions. I'm sorry. I didn't.
That's all right.
So, yeah.
What's your favorite episode?
Gosh, I thought your first video was the number one was really good. And then I loved the one I just saw where you had the question, if God took down the Tower of Babel, why doesn't he do anything about NASA? Somebody called it, and I go, that's a good question.
I've actually asked that same question here on the show.
The first few episodes were all questions that I had when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
There was not a lot of Bible research done in the first season, especially in the first half of it. It was all shit that I had already thought of when I was a kid, like where are the giant bones? We found dinosaur bones. Where are the giant bones?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
All that kind of crap. And Noah's Ark. Oh my God. That's why Noah's Ark pulled me out of religion. Noah's Ark was the first call in the first episode of the show.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you like
Genesis for-
Ricky Gervais's stand up on Noah's Ark?
Yeah, I saw that. I liked that.
Yeah,
That was pretty
that's
good.
hilarious.
I can't fathom how anybody buys that story.
It's
beyond
Well-
me.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's quite possibly the most mythological or fantasy story in the Old Testament. Like, all the other stuff seems kind of quasi, like, okay, there was this king and he fought these wars. But that story alone is just so outrageously, unbelievably, and, people swear by it. They're like, well, no, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can even buy the talking snake and the talking donkey, but because, whatever, there's some supernatural crap going on or whatever. But I mean, his ark wasn't even supposed to be supernatural or anything.
Yeah,
Right.
and they've proven that the fact is there's no way it would have been able to hold all those animals. I mean, there's more cockroaches and insects like that in the planet that wouldn't be able to fit on that ship anyway. So
Well, the water
Yeah.
was supposed to cover all the mountains, and I never even thought of this when I first deconverted. I didn't worry about it, and people were pointing out, said, "Do you realize that if the water covered Mount Everest, the tallest
Yeah.
point we wouldn't be able to breathe?"
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like,
They would have frozen
oh
to
my
death, too.
gosh! And then where does the water go after? Things like that. It's amazing to me. But then again, most Christians will bolster it up and say, well, there's a flood myth in every single culture, blah blah blah, and there are a lot of
there's a
myths
Therefore,
about
it's
it.
and there's a
real.
lot of them out there, a lot of cultures that are just as old that have never heard of these flood myths at all.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but you have to say, well, are they? It's just because they're isolated and they're ancient. They didn't know. There may have been a flood, but not one that.
Unless you're
covered-
Chinese, in which case they defeated the flood. So,
Right. Exactly.
so I'm
Well,
going to take.
there's a savior myth in several religions too.
Oh
The
yes.
Jesus story is not even original.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. We're going to take a couple questions from the chat room here. Dawkins' dog asked, "Is Nick, have you faced any problems from your family or friends over your atheism?"
My mom just knows not to even bother. Because she doesn't want to alienate me or herself from me. So not really too much. They're very my family is very let's just not talk about it. Let's look the other way. So it works out well for me.
Well, that's good. At least they're not saying, "Oh, we don't have any more contact with you at all."
Right, yeah, that would be very out of place for my family. I do have kind of a logical fallacy involving that. This was a few years ago, and my sister, who's older than me, she was kind of worried about, I was wearing a belt, and it had a pentagram on it. I was just wearing it, whatever. I got it from the mall, and she was worried because of that I was going to go to hell. And so my stepdad reassures her that, oh, no, Nick believes in the Bible. This was before they knew about the atheism. He reassured her with, see, the Bible says in Psalms 14:1, a fool says in his heart there is no God. And Nick's not a fool, so therefore he believes in God. Like, what the fuck kind of logic is that?
Right.
It worked, I guess, for the time being. But yeah, everybody's still cool. And if they weren't, then I guess I would just live with it.
Yeah. Another question here we have. Oh, no, that's from Jesse. He says he was just remembered the first time he met your Pastor Green. Terrifying. More of a
There
comment.
is a story involved with that.
Oh, well, please share
Tell the
it.
story.
Please tell the story. Yes.
Jesse was working at a retail store at the time, and so me and Ben, we showed up at his retail store, and I was dressed as Pastor Green for the first time with my head shaved the way his bad hairline is. And I had a Bible with me, and I came in and completely disturbed him as he was attempting to run his cash register. and then at some point, he could look out the front door, and he could see me chasing B around the parking lot, waving the Bible at him. I was getting into character.
The funny thing about the Pastor Green, when I was actually involved in the Pentecostal religion for a while there, and I actually heard of a pastor by that name, Pastor Green. So it was like that name actually resonated for me when I was like, Pastor Green, holy crap! So I was. Where did you guys come up with a name for that? By the way, just out of curiosity.
Just lazy.
Okay.
Just didn't want to think too hard. I was like, Pastor Bob, Pastor Bill. He was also not going to be a major. He was just going to be, there to fill in because John was gone. And then, of course, nothing is ever... We keep thinking things are not going to come back, and then they do.
Is that why you killed him off originally? Is just because you thought, well, we're going to just kind of make him sick?
Well, the idea of...
I like the way you made him,
Pastor Green-
die on camera. It's like, what's he died on camera. What are you going to do with his body?
that was just to kind of make a big tie-in for the whole... then there'd be an opening and his. By the time I figured that part out, I figured out that Adam was going to be his nephew, and sometimes that shit just comes together. And then Adam took over the show, or no, Adam. He had control over the show now because he became the pastor, and then canceled it because he was bitter at John for kicking him off the show. And
I like the no one can see me. I got the green thing on me. No one can see me except for my head. You just got this floating in. Another one that I really liked was the one. Oh, well, the camera's not rolling. We can't see nothing. It's like, oh, you know that the thing was that I was talking about that girl, you told me to meet, and I stuck it in her butt, and she didn't like it, and the whole and it's like, oh yeah, the thing was recording the whole time. Oh,
you slowly penetrate the anus.
Yeah,
that is sound advice. I always liked the idea of the John character having kind of this mysterious background, when he doesn't think he's on camera, you'll hear him drop F-bombs. He almost got an N-bomb out in season 3 and got cut off.
You're
so great.
After I was mugged by those mitt.
You can't say that.
Where the fuck is my new Pastor Green picture?
Yeah. I've loved kind of developing that character as we've come along. I mean, when I go back to the old episodes, from season 1, I'm like, man, I don't even know if I would write him that way again, because you just develop, it just kind of evolves, even though evolution isn't real. It happened.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask you also, where did you decide to put in Ben on camera and say he's running the show and everything, and then you come up with he called it the Bible contradictions.
Yeah, that was in season 2. I'm trying to think what was. I think it might have just been to point out some contradictions, and since all John does is avoid them, I was like, well, you got to have a different host. You got to have somebody that wants to hear him. And
there you go.
Also, it was just to add maybe a little bit of variety, but also some just more humorous backstory. John called the show and he's like, don't let anybody know I'm in jail. And I don't know why he was in jail.
I was on vacation.
I was on vacation.
Don't let anybody know I'm on vacation. And then in season 3, I like just throwing him in there. It's so I can do some different things. So I can write some calls differently and get some points across, in a different way.
Yeah.
Packard,
yeah.
The promotional video for this episode, you said if you have any questions for Nick, post them in the comments below. We actually have a question from YouTube.
Yeah, I know. They're all yours.
No, they're not all from me. This question comes from Joe and Scene from YouTube. And when John Matthews,
he has your same name, Joe. I wonder how that happened.
I'm going to sue that asshole. When John Matthews first arrived in prison, did the other inmates scrape metal cups on the bars of their cells and chant, fish, fish, fish?
I like to speculate what he may have done in prison.
Oh, I remember what I was going to ask you now. I always remember when he brought up that whole thing. It was like, oh, well, I'm going to tell the pastor what you did to me. He's talking to the guy with the curly hair, and he's like, no, you can't tell him that because you'll get in trouble too. I was like, oh, that's really dark.
Yeah, I actually I don't have an answer for that. That is just kind of that's kind of the joke right there. Now, it doesn't mean that there won't be an answer later, because I do like to go back and take things that we just said or some mysterious things and put stuff together.
I would love to see the outcome of that. I mean, maybe
what the hell? I have thought of.
I thought maybe that was the reason why John was in jail to begin with. That's why he was away for so long.
Yeah, we never explained.
I know
why he was in jail that one time when Darren was on the show. He's like, "Don't let anybody know I'm in jail." That never got explained. And I've been thinking about for sometime in upcoming season 3 to have somebody actually ask that, what was that guy or what was Adam talking about? So I don't know. We'll see. Right now, I don't know.
You know, I also liked how you progressively through the first season right at the beginning of the second season, he lost his whole family. He's like, oh, well, we've had to go and live in the shelter, and God has decided to make us live in this home with our parents and everything like this. And then my wife left me, and a couple shows later, my wife's left me for some other guy. And by it's like the start of season 2, well, my wife was killed. You know, and he's really happy about it. That guy, woman that she left, the guy she left me for, and they all died in a car accident. And it's so the psychotic mindset is like, I'm like, oh, this is really dark.
I think, well, a lot of the times when it comes to ideas, Jesse will have an idea, and then I'll add to it, or vice versa. And for the first tragic thing to happen to John, Jesse just had an idea that something tragic would happen to him, like a kid would die, and his whole point was he liked how Christians will thank God no matter what happens. So then he prayed and he thanked him, and I was like, well, we can expand upon this, because that reminds me of the story of Job. So throughout season 1's entire story is the story of Job. John loses everything.
Okay.
And then by the 13th episode, everything's gone. His family's gone. His wife left him. And instead of being like Job, he denounces his faith. He's like, what kind of a son of a bitch would do this to a person? Talking about God. And the whole, and
then he denies it in season. Yeah, then he denied it all in season. I would never do that. Person who does that, they're just bad people.
Right. I've never been drunk.
I've never been drunk.
And when we first ended season 1, well, the first episode was just supposed to be a standalone video. Like, oh, that was funny. We're pointing out some funny things. Let's put it on YouTube and see if we piss people off. Then we had fun doing it. The first episode actually wasn't even scripted. We just came up with it on the spot. We had enough fun doing it, and I started scripting them. And then was like, oh, okay, well, let's do some till it's like a season. And then did 13. It was like, all right, let's end it. So John stops being Christian. Okay, it's over. But once you get into something like that, you just keep finding more and more crazy Bible stuff. So it came back, and and of course he quickly regained his faith, because obviously it wasn't the doctors that helped him; it was God.
Of course, I've heard how many times we've heard that one a lot.
Yeah.
So, all right. Do we have any other quick questions from the chat room? Anybody?
A question I thought of earlier: the phone number. On the, I actually typed that into Google because I was curious. Is that a real phone number? Just something. I was like, what is this?
We played that. All right. If you don't come to the live show and stick around for the after show, you miss out on a lot of stuff. Nick kind of joined us on the show, and we called it and we played a few moments of it on the air. So if you don't come to the live show, you miss out on all this extra content that you're not going to hear.
Talk in Packard's voice.
Yeah. He actually loses his shirt. It's fantastic. He has electric X's on his nipples.
Yeah.
I'll bring the Packard. You bring the Vaseline.
Do we want to let people know what that number is?
Sure, go ahead.
I can't think of what I know it's 1-800-288. Hell, something. Anyway, it spells out 1-800-butt-sex. And it is we just called it last week on Packard's show, and it's the same message that it was back in 2009 when I first started the show.
I didn't want them attaching to my phone number, so I used the Skype to call it since it's 800 number. So it's like, oh, we got to pull this up just to see what it says. I was like, and they're talking, and they had some woman on there like, do you want to stick something in my butt? It's like, okay.
She used the word tushy at some point.
Yeah, I think she did.
Tushy?
It was funny.
Stick your credit card in my tushy. Oh. That's perverted. I can't believe you do that.
That's funny.
Okay, if we don't have any more questions from the chat room.
Nick, I know you don't like pressure from, being forced to create and all that, but when do you think there'll be new episodes coming out?
Back off.
I know. Okay. All right, I knew I crossed the line.
We're getting ready to film our 38th episode. There's only 33 online right now, so
Oh, so you have some
we've got-
in the queue, and they're just waiting to come out.
they're not even in that. They're just on my computer.
Oh.
But I have watched them. Episode 34, 35, 36, and 37. They're great.
Nice.
Just want to rub that in. I'm thinking I would really like to have it. Originally, I wanted to have them out in November, starting in November. But like, God, that's coming up. I just want to make sure that all 7 are done before I do start. I'm really thinking realistically, like December. Kind of hoping to maybe make it like a part of the whole Christmas season type thing. Here's your
that's
present
an
from Coast to
idea.
Coast.
Christmas and Easter are great times on the internet for atheists because we get to be obnoxious.
Oh yeah.
Oh, well, fantastic.
And we do it so well, Joe.
Yes, we do.
I know.
Because we're all on Oreos. Playing our PS4s.
And there's a full circle cookie. Come
Yes,
back to the beginning.
Right back around.
come right all the way back to the beginning. But anyway. All right. Well, I don't see we're getting any more questions from the chat room, so we're going to cut it out from here. But I want to thank everybody for coming out. Especially thank you to Nick for joining us here on the show tonight. And, of course, we're welcome to come back anytime. And, of course, come and join us in the chat room. Oh, yeah. We'd love to have fun.